Hello again. Wanted to make a video today about a subgenre of music that I really do like. I have a great admiration for this type of music. It's called the new wave of British heavy metal. I'm sure you have all heard of that. Originating in the late 70s and early 80s in Britain, obviously. And they actually, a lot of those bands had a lot of doom, you know, they had a lot of doom characteristics, bents to them. Sometimes they were a lot faster, they had a lot more of a thrash type of speed, you know, they weren't really slow, but they had a lot of a doomy feel to the recording style and to the themes, the lyrics, the artwork. The whole packaging was pretty doom in a lot of those bands. They may have taken some influence from Black Sabbath, which was also from England. So a lot of them were very dark, occult, doomy type of albums and bands. I wanted to talk about 3 or 4 of these bands and albums today in this video. The first one is my favorite all-time new wave of British heavy metal, and one of the first and doomiest of them all, and they are called Witchfinder General. This album is their debut album. It's called Death Penalty. It was released in 1982. The artwork is, of course, has to be a topless woman being interrogated and about to be probably burned. So obviously a name like Witchfinder General, you know exactly what these guys are like, what they're all about. Witchfinder General, obviously the band name taken from the famous movie Witchfinder General, which was a very famous witch hunting movie, 1968 British horror film. It's a good one. Also Mark of the Devil. Look up Mark of the Devil if you're into this witch hunting stuff. It's kind of a fascinating, morbid curiosity type of thing for some of us. If you like doom type stuff, you know, if you're into this channel, you might be into the kind of the morbid, dark black type stuff, and witch hunting is definitely that. So this album, Witchfinder General's Death Penalty, along with Pagan Altar, were the 2 earliest bands to be putting a lot of doom into the British records in the new wave of British heavy metal scene in the late 70s and early 80s. They were the first 2 to really be doing a lot of doom. So yes, Witchfinder General released Death Penalty, and it's one of the best albums of 1982. I will tell you that right now. If you haven't heard it, run and listen to it immediately. Let's get into the history of some of the best new wave of British heavy metal bands and their albums, and some of them that are great for doom fans. Let's talk. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the presentation. Alright, let's get into this presentation about the new wave of British heavy metal and their influence on doom metal. Some of these bands that are great for doom fans. I'm going to talk about a few albums today. The first, obviously, Witchfinder General, an absolute must-hear for doom fans, and I'm sure most of my very knowledgeable fans of this channel that are watching this know this band already. You're all very smart. You're some of the smartest music people in the world, if you like smod. But just in case some of you don't know, Witchfinder General is a new wave of British heavy metal band from Stourbridge, England, that formed in 1979, named after the classic 1968 horror film Witchfinder General. They were formed by Z Parks and Phil Cope, and they were one of the first bands from the new wave of British heavy metal scene to play doom metal. They were heavily influenced by Black Sabbath, and definitely are considered one of the pioneers of doom metal style, along with Pagan Altar, which I've already talked about. They released a couple albums in the 80s. One, their debut, Death Penalty, in 1982. Their second album, Friends of Hell, was released the next year in 1983, and then they released a third and final album in 2008 without Zeeb Parks, so they did not have the original vocal. I have not heard their resurrected album, their third and final album, but their two 80s classic albums are fantastic, and I'm going to focus mostly on Death Penalty. Death Penalty has always been one of my favorite 80s heavy metal and doom metal albums, and it was released on Heavy Metal Records. It had a very controversial cover art featuring a topless model. It's about witch finding, witch hunting, that really sinister feel, that it has a very sinister feel, and it starts off with Invisible Hate, which is one of the best songs they ever made. A 6-minute opening track. It goes from Invisible Hate to Free Country, which is a very fast-paced song. Death Penalty, track 3, the self-titled track, a very good track about, witch hunting, obviously. And No Stayer kicks off side 2. The hits keep on rolling. That's another fantastic track. Then one of the best tracks on the album is the Witchfinder General, which is an anthem of doom metal. Very catchy, absolutely fantastic song. And Burning a Sinner is another one of my favorite tracks from the album. The album only has 7 tracks, and so it's only about a half hour long, but it's absolutely fantastic from front to back. There's no filler here on this album. I did find the review that I wrote on Facebook in 2018 that I'm going to read now. It says, "In my stereo today is a new wave of British heavy metal classic. It's a fantastic early proto-doom record, Death Penalty, the 1982 debut by Witchfinder General. Witchfinder General was a heavy metal band from England. They were part of the new wave of British heavy metal scene and have been cited as a major influence on the doom metal genre. Named after the 1968 British horror film Witchfinder General, Death Penalty riffs hard from beginning to end and features a fantastic retro doom atmosphere. From the beginning, the album explodes into a flurry of ass-kicking riffs, one after the other, delivered with absolutely no mercy to the listener. In fact, the riffs are the most characteristic part of the whole album. Blues-inspired licks that just keep on coming, each better than the last throughout the whole album and never lets up. Invisible Hate, the first track, is a perfect representation of the 6 songs to follow. The happy drum patterns, varied riff landscapes, and witch-related lyrics. Yes, pretty much the whole album is dedicated to witches, delivered in a high-pitched croon. The album cover features a topless model and was taken without permission. If you want a good early example of proto-doom and have a thing for horror and witch hunting themes, this is the album for you. Don't let this old school classic pass you by. Check it out today." Favorite tracks: Invisible Hate, Free Country, Witchfinder General, and Burning a Sinner. Death Penalty is the best album by them, so definitely check that one out. But also Friends of Hell is good as well. It's just not classic like Death Penalty is. Let's get into the next band I wanted to discuss. This is embarrassingly a band that I just found very recently. I should have known this album a long time ago. Better late than never, and it's always fun to find some new stuff that I haven't heard. This band is called Witchfynde. They were formed in 1974 by the guitarist Richard Blower and vocalist Neil Harvey. These guys released 2 albums in 1980, Give 'Em Hell and Stage Fright. My favorite is Give 'Em Hell, the debut album. This album is one of my favorites that I've heard of the new wave of British heavy metal outside of Death Penalty and Judgment of the Dead by Pagan Altar. This is one of my favorites. It really reminded me of Diamond Head, if you've heard them. It really sounds a lot like Diamond Head. The album is just a really, really cool album. It does have a lot of doom influence on it. I would say it's one of the doomier new wave of British heavy metal albums. It's got a lot of that dark, doomy atmosphere, and just the playing on it gets kind of slow at times. It's not pure doom, but it's definitely influential to doom. And obviously the band name and the cover art, which features a goat and just some satanic imagery and stuff like that, definitely gives you the doom vibes big time. It also has a couple of pretty long tracks, leaving Nadir and Onto the Ages of the Ages, which is almost 9 minutes long. The original album has tracks starting with Ready to Roll and closing with Pay Now, Love Later. The CD reissue adds 3 extra tracks, and so you get a total of 10. It has a couple really good bonus tracks on it. The original album has a kicking start. The first 3 tracks are really great. Ready to Roll is a great opening track. The Divine Victim and Leaving Nadir are really, really good tracks. Onto the Ages of the Ages, the 9-minute track, gets pretty crazy and it kind of builds and builds and has this frantic section in it. and it's pretty dark and doomy. So Witchfynde is a band that is definitely worth checking out for Doom fans if you haven't heard them. They released several other albums, including Cloak and Danger and Lords of Sin in 83 and 84, but I have not heard those albums. Still pretty new to the band, so I'll have to dig into more of their records, but the debut album, Give 'Em Hell, is a fantastic album. Another band I wanted to mention is Demon, which were formed in 1979 by vocalist Dave Hill and the guitarist Mal Spooner, and they released a really great album, Night of the Demon, in 1981. Night of the Demon has a really cool track which is called Night of the Demon. It's a very catchy song. The album is not as doomy, it's not played as slow or as brooding as some of this other stuff that I've been talking about, but I still think it's got enough doom atmosphere to it and enough doom imagery and stuff like that that it's worth mentioning and checking out for Doom fans. Night of the Demon is the only album I have heard, but they've released other albums in the 80s, including The Unexpected Guest and The Plague. I need to check those albums out, but definitely the first album, Night of the Demon, is a really great album for Doom fans. So check that band out as well. Obviously, there's a few more like Angel Witch. They're a great 70s and early 80s new wave of British heavy metal band. Another one I would recommend is Cloven Hoof, who released their debut self-titled album in 1984, which does have a little bit of a doomy feel to it as well. Again, a little more fast-paced playing than a lot of the stuff that Doom fans might like, but it's a great heavy metal record. It's definitely got a bit of a Doom vibe to it, so check out Cloven Hoof's debut album as well. So those are just some of my favorite new wave of British heavy metal finds that I've listened to. I have a lot more digging to do to find a lot more stuff. This is just a very introductory type of video here. I have a lot more research to do, but I thought I would recommend a few of these of my favorites that I have found up to this point. So thank you very much for listening. Please recommend some of your favorite new wave of British heavy metal bands. If I've missed some that you think deserve a listen, if you think they deserve a shout out, please let me know. Now, I'm always down to get some new recommendations myself as well. I don't know everything. There's just too many bands out there and not enough time in the day. So please, if you have some recommendations, let me hear them. So Doom on. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.